Ever think you're the hero in her story, only to find out you're just the NPC she ditches mid-game? That was me. Clueless and screwed. I'm sitting here on my sagging couch sipping coffee that tastes like it's been filtered through an old sock, and I guess it's time to spill the beans. So, here's the deal. I'm Matt, 30, mechanic by day, hopeless romantic by delusion. Life was good, or at least I thought it was. The apartment smells like motor oil and regret most days, but it's home, you know, pools scattered across the floor. A half-dead fern Jess swore she'd water, and this couch that's seen better days. Like me, I suppose. I take another sip, wincing as the bitterness hits, and figure now's as good a time as any to tell you how I got here. 3 years ago, I met Jess at the Rusty Tap, this dive bar on the edge of town, where the jukebox only plays Springsteen if you kick it right. I was nursing a beer, minding my own business when she tripped over some drunk stool and dumped a Bud Light right in my lap. She froze, those big hazel eyes wide, and muttered, "Oh crap, I'm so sorry." I just laughed, shook the foam off my jeans and said, "Well, now I'm baptized. Guess we're bonded for life." She smirked, handed me a stack of napkins and said, "Careful what you wish for, grease monkey." That's Jess. Quick with a laugh, quicker with a comeback. She said it was an accident, but now I'm wondering if it was a warning shot I was too dumb to dodge. We hit it off after that. Friday nights, I'd park myself at the bar watching her sling drinks and charm the regulars. Old guys with tobacco-stained teeth, college kids pretending they could handle whiskey. She'd lean over during a lull, sneak me a shot of bourbon and whisper, "Don't tell my boss I'm spoiling you." I'd grin and say, "My lips are sealed, but you owe me a dance later." She'd roll her eyes, but she always danced, swaying to some crackly tune while I tried not to step on her toes. Sundays, I'd be at her place, elbow deep in her sink, because it leaked worse than a politician's promises. She'd perch on the counter, sipping coffee, teasing, "Look at you, my hero with a wrench." I'd flick water at her and she'd squeal, smacking me with a dish towel. Those moments, man, they felt like something solid. She started calling me her rock, and I ate it up like a kid with a gold star. I kicked my boots up on the coffee table now, staring at a grease smudge on my jeans and fiddle with the wrench in my hand. It's a habit. Keeps my fingers busy when my head's spinning. Things were good back then, or at least they seemed that way. Lately, though, Jess has been pulling this working late routine more than usual. Inventory ran long, she says, or some new hire screwed up the till. Last week, I swung by with burgers. Thought I'd surprise her after a double shift. But she waved me off at the door, hair messy, apron half untied. "Not tonight, babe. I'm beat," she said, barely looking at me. I shrugged, handed her the bag and joked, "Guess I'm not the only one who loves a cold one after midnight." She laughed, but it didn't reach her eyes, and I drove home with this weird knot in my gut I couldn't shake. I set the wrench down, wiping sweat off my brow even though it's not that hot in here. Maybe it's nothing. Jess is a bartender, late nights come with the gig, right? She's always been a free spirit, flitting around like a firefly I could never quite catch. And that's what I liked about her. She kept me on my toes. I'm the steady one, the guy who fixes stuff, who shows up. She'd flop on this couch after a shift, kick her sneakers off, and ramble about some customer who tipped her a 20 just to hear her laugh. I'd listen, nodding, tracing circles on her ankle with my thumb. "You're too good to me, Matt," she'd say, and I'd think, yeah, maybe I am. But I liked being that guy, her guy. Still, there's this itch I can't scratch lately. Like last month, we were supposed to hit the county fair, cotton candy, Ferris wheel, the whole cheesy deal. I'd been hyping it up, even dug out my least stained flannel. She bailed last minute, texting, "Sorry, babe, bar's short-staffed." I ended up eating funnel cake alone, watching couples stumble off the tilt-a-whirl, wondering why I felt more like a backup plan than a boyfriend. I texted her a pic of my powdered sugar mustache, captioned, "Your loss." She sent back a laughing emoji and, "You're ridiculous. Ridiculous is fine. I'll take it." But it's the silences after that get me. I lean back, the couch creaking under me, and glance at the corner where this old motorcycle's been sitting for weeks. It's a beat-up '89 Honda I scored off Craigslist, all rust and bad vibes. But I've been tinkering with it in my spare time. Jess's birthday's next month, and she's always yammered about wanting to ride off into the sunset, hair whipping in the wind like some movie star. I figured I'd fix it up, slap a bow on it, surprise her. Been pouring hours into it. New carburetor, fresh paint, even tracked down a vintage seat that cost me half a paycheck. Pictured her face lighting up, maybe hopping on the back, arms around my waist as we tore down Route 12 with the fields blurring by. "Matt, you're insane," she'd yell over the engine, and I'd just grin because yeah, I kinda am. For her. I pick up the wrench again, twirling it between my fingers and let out a half laugh. Insane's one word for it. Dumb might be another. She's been off lately, distant, like she's here but not really. Last night, I asked if she wanted to grab wings this weekend, just us. She mumbled something about checking her schedule, eyes glued to her phone. I didn't push it. Didn't want to be that guy, the needy one. But as I sit here now, coffee going cold, that knot's back, twisting tighter. She always said she wanted to ride off into the sunset. Should have asked who she pictured on the back. Guess I'll find out soon enough. So, after that coffee went cold on my couch, I figured I'd stop moping and do something about it. Jess had been dodging me like I was a bill collector, and I wasn't about to sit around twirling a wrench forever. I grabbed a couple of burgers from that greasy joint on Main, extra pickles, her favorite, and decided to swing by the Rusty Tap. Thought I'd surprise her, be the good boyfriend. The night was sticky, one of those late summer deals where the air feels like it's hugging you too tight, and I rolled the windows down in my truck, letting the hum of crickets drown out Springsteen on the radio. I pulled into the gravel lot, the neon sign buzzing like a tired wasp, and hopped out with the takeout bag swinging in my hand. Maybe I'd catch her on a slow shift, steal a fry, get that laugh of hers to light up the room. I pushed through the door, the familiar stink of stale beer and fried onions hitting me, and there she was behind the counter, pouring a draft with that easy grin I fell for 3 years back. Except she wasn't alone. Some guy, tall, tattoos snaking up his arms, drowning in cologne that screamed midlife crisis, was leaning over the bar, way too close for my liking. Jess was laughing, tossing her head back, like he'd just dropped the punchline of the century. I stopped dead, bag crinkling in my fist, and muttered to myself, I'm not jealous, just observant. Yeah, real smooth, Matt. I shuffled over, forcing a grin, and plopped the bag on the counter. Hey, babe, brought you some fuel. Extra pickles, just how you like it. She glanced up, startled, then flashed a smile that didn't quite land. Oh, hey, Matt. You didn't have to do that. Her voice was bright, but her eyes darted to the guy like she'd been caught sneaking cookies. He straightened up, smirking, and I got a better look. Hair gelled to death. A leather jacket that probably cost more than my truck's transmission. Jess waved a hand between us. This is Dylan from the liquor supplier. Dylan, this is Matt. I nodded, sizing him up, and tossed out, what's he supplying, whiskey or your social calendar? She laughed a little too loud and swatted my arm. Stop it, you goof. He's just dropping off some new stock. Dylan chuckled, all teeth, and said, Yeah, man, keeping her busy. I bit back a reply, just smirked and slid the bag closer. Well, don't let me interrupt the party. She grabbed the bag, peeking inside, and mumbled a quick thanks, babe, before turning back to Dylan like I was already gone. I stood there a beat, hands shoved in my pockets, watching her giggle at something he said about craft IPAs. Stuff I wouldn't drink if you paid me. Finally, I cleared my throat and said, Get a head out, enjoy the burger. She waved without looking up, and I trudged back to my truck, the gravel crunching under my boots louder than it should have. I climbed in, slammed the door, and sat there gripping the wheel, staring at the bar's flickering sign. Just a supplier, I muttered. Right, and I'm just a guy who fixes sinks. The next day I was in the garage, knee-deep in that motorcycle project when Pete rolled up in his beat-up Jeep. Pete's my buddy from way back, ex-Marine, buzz cut, the kind of guy who'd punch a bear and then buy it a beer. I was yanking a stubborn bolt, sweat dripping down my neck, and he leaned against the workbench, cracking open a Coke. You look like hell, man, he said, taking a swig. What's eating you? I wiped my hands on a rag, tossing it aside, and grunted, Jess. She's been weird. Caught her laughing it up with some slick dude last night. Dylan, the liquor guy? Pete raised an eyebrow, setting the can down with a clink. Laughing how? Like, flirty laughing? I shrugged, grabbing a screwdriver just to have something to stab at the air with. I don't know, maybe. She says it's work, but... I trailed off and he snorted, Man, she's got you wound tighter than a rusted bolt. I glared at him, but he wasn't wrong. Yeah, well, I'm her mechanic, not her babysitter, I shot back, jamming the screwdriver into the bike's frame harder than I meant to. Metal screeched, and I winced, dropping it with a clatter. Pete laughed, shaking his head. You're a mess, dude. Either ask her straight up or quit torturing yourself. I kicked a stray wrench across the floor, watching it skitter under the bench. What am I supposed to say? Hey, babe, you screwing the whiskey guy? Real romantic. Pete grinned, all crooked teeth, and said, Better than wondering if you're the backup plan. I flipped him off, but the words stuck, rattling around my head like loose change. That night, I offered to drive Jess home after her shift. Figured I'd test the waters, see if I was just being paranoid. She slid into the passenger seat, hair tied up in a messy bun, and immediately buried her nose in her phone, thumbs flying. I started the truck, the engine rumbling low, and stole a glance. She was giggling, little huffs of air, her screen lighting up her face. Who's so funny, I asked, keeping my tone light, even though my hands tightened on the wheel. She didn't look up, just snapped, Just work stuff, relax, Matt. Her voice had an edge, like I'd asked her to confess to a felony. I forced a grin, knuckles whitening. Work's got a hell of a sense of humor lately, I muttered, loud enough for her to hear. She rolled her eyes, locking her phone with a click. God, you're dramatic. It's just texts. The rest of the ride was quiet, save for the hum of tires on asphalt and the occasional cricket chirping through the open window. I kept my eyes on the road, jaw clenched while she stared out her side, tapping her foot like she couldn't wait to bolt. I dropped her off at her place, the porch light flickering like it was as tired as I felt. Night, babe, I said, and she mumbled, Yeah, night, before disappearing inside without a backward glance. I sat there a minute, engine idling, then peeled out, the knot in my gut twisting tighter than ever. Back home, I flopped onto the couch, the springs groaning under me, and stared at the ceiling fan spinning lazy circles. Round and round, like my thoughts. Her laugh with Dylan echoing in my ears, sharp and bright, slicing through the quiet. I kicked my boots off, letting them thud to the floor, and scrubbed a hand over my face. Maybe I'm paranoid, I told myself, replaying her brushing me off, that forced laugh at the bar. Or maybe I'm not dumb enough. The motorcycle sat in the corner, half-finished, gleaming under the garage light like some hopeful idiot's dream. I'd been pouring myself into it, thinking it'd bring us closer, remind her I'm the guy who shows up, but now it felt like I was fixing up a getaway ride for someone else. I grabbed a beer from the fridge, the cold glass sweating in my hand, and took a long pull. The fan kept spinning, the night kept humming, and I kept lying there, wondering how long I'd been missing the punchline. I couldn't sleep after that night on the couch, the ceiling fan mocking me with every lazy spin. Jez's laugh with that Dylan creep kept bouncing around my skull, loud and sharp like a wrench clanging off concrete. I'd spent the last week trying to shake it, tinkering with the motorcycle, cracking beers with Pete, pretending I wasn't losing my damn mind. But you know how it is when something's off, and you can't unsee it? Yeah, that was me. So, when I finally got that bike purring like a dream, new spark plugs, fresh oil, the works, I figured I'd surprise Jess, beat her birthday by a couple weeks, maybe remind her I'm not just the guy who fixes sinks. Rain was hammering down that evening, cutting through the late summer heat like it was pissed at the world, but I didn't care. I tugged on my jacket, grabbed the spare helmet I'd picked up at the swap meet, and drove to her place with this stupid grin plastered on my face. The truck's wipers were slapping back and forth, barely keeping up with the downpour, and I was soaked by the time I stumbled up her apartment steps. Water dripped off my hood, pooling around my boot, but I was buzzing, picturing her face when she saw the bike gleaming in the parking lot. I fumbled with the key she'd given me last year, back when she'd hugged me tight and said, "You're my home base, Matt." The memory stung a little now, but I shook it off, twisting the lock. The place was dim, just a faint glow from the kitchen bulb she never turned off. I kicked my boots against the mat, helmet tucked under my arm, and called out, "Jess? You home, babe?" No answer, but I heard something. Low voices? A laugh? Drifting from the bedroom down the hall? My stomach did a weird flip, like when you miss a step on the stairs, but I brushed it off. Probably the TV, right? I patted across the carpet, rain dripping off me in little splats, and nudged the bedroom door with my elbow. It was cracked open, just enough to see inside, and that's when the world tilted. Jess was sprawled on the bed, legs tangled in the sheets, wearing that old concert tee she stole from me ages ago, and there was Dylan, tattooed arms, smug grin, propped up next to her, his hand resting on her thigh like he owned the place. She was mid-laugh, head tipped back, her fingers brushing his chest. "Matt's sweet," she said, her voice light like she was talking about a puppy, but God, he's predictable. "You're a whole different gear, Dylan." My breath caught, stuck somewhere between my lungs and my throat, and I froze, water trickling down my neck, cold as hell, but not enough to snap me out of it. Dylan smirked, leaning closer, his voice all gravel and grease. "So when's Mr. Fix-It getting the boot?" Jess sighed, twirling a strand of hair around her finger, and shrugged. "Soon. I just need to figure out how to ditch the guilt trip. He's so damn clingy sometimes." Clingy. The word hit like a punch, and I gripped the helmet so tight my knuckles ached. 3 years. Friday nights at the bar, Sunday mornings with her coffee breath, every leaky faucet I'd patched up, reduced to clingy. I wanted to barge in, yell, flip the bed over, something, anything to make them see me standing there. But my feet wouldn't move. Rain kept dripping, soaking the carpet, and I just stood there, a dumbass statue watching my life crack open. Dylan laughed, low and lazy. "Poor guy's probably out there polishing that bike, thinking it'll win you back." Jess snorted, rolling her eyes. "Oh, he's obsessed with that thing. Keeps talking about some sunset ride, like, what am I, a biker chick now?" She giggled, and he pulled her closer, muttering, "You're my ride, babe." That did it. Something snapped, quiet but sharp, like a spark plug misfiring. I backed up, slow, my boots squelching on the wet floor, and turned toward the kitchen. My hands were shaking, anger, hurt, who the hell knows, and I set the helmet on the counter with a dull thud, grabbed a Post-it from the fridge, one with her handwriting still on it from some old grocery list, and scribbled, "Ride's all yours." The pen tore through the paper, ink smudging from my wet fingers, but I didn't care. I slapped it on the helmet, grabbed my keys, and walked out, the door clicking shut behind me like a period at the end of a sentence. Rain pelted my face as I stumbled to the truck, the storm roaring louder than my heartbeat. I climbed in, slammed the door, and cranked the radio, some shitty country song about heartbreak blaring through the speakers. I peeled out of the lot, tires spinning on the slick pavement, and drove. No idea where I was going, just moving. The wipers thumped, the rain blurred everything, and Jess's voice kept looping in my head. Predictable, clingy, a different gear. I pounded the wheel with my fist, once, twice, till my hand stung, and let out a laugh that sounded more like a choke. 3 years, I muttered, and I'm the spare part. The road stretched out, dark and endless, and I kept driving, the radio screaming over the noise in my skull. I don't know how long I was out there, maybe an hour, maybe 2, before I pulled into a gas station off Route 12. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, harsh against the dark, and I killed the engine, sitting there with my hands limp on the wheel. Rain drummed on the roof, slower now, like it was tired of being pissed. I stared at the pump through the streaked windshield, its numbers glowing like they were mocking me. $3.89 a gallon. What a steal. 3 years, I said again, quieter this time, my voice hoarse. Build her a damn bike and I'm the spare part. I dug my phone out of my pocket, half expecting a text, some "where are you" bullshit, but the screen was blank. Just me, the rain, and that stupid helmet sitting back there on her counter. I leaned my head back, closing my eyes, and let the storm do the yelling for me. I didn't go home after that gas station pit stop, couldn't. The idea of walking back into my apartment, with Jess's ghost still hanging around in every corner, made my stomach churn worse than the rain-soaked burger wrappers littering my truck. So I drove straight to Pete's, the tires humming on wet asphalt, the radio now just static because I'd punched the knob silent somewhere around mile 10. His place was a squat little house on the edge of town, porch sagging like it was as tired as I felt. I banged on the door, soaked to the bone, and when he opened it, hair a mess, wearing a Marines t-shirt 2 sizes too big, he took one look at me and said, "Jesus, Matt, you look like a drowned rat. What the hell happened?" I shoved past him, dripping all over his hardwood, and muttered, "Jess, Dylan, bedroom, done." He didn't ask for more, just grabbed a towel from the hall closet, tossed it at my head, and said, "Crash here, I'll get the whiskey." I spent the next day in his garage, hiding out like some fugitive from my own life. Pete's got this setup out back, half mechanic's dream, half junkyard nightmare, and I parked myself there surrounded by rusted car parts and the smell of engine grease. That motorcycle, the one I'd poured my soul into for Jess, was still at my place, but I'd hauled a toolbox over, needing something to keep my hands busy. I started dismantling an old carburetor Pete had lying around, yanking bolts with more force than necessary. "Guess sunset rides are off the table," I grumbled, tossing a stripped screw into a pile of scrap. Pete poked his head in, a beer in each hand, and plopped one down next to me. "You talking to me or the engine?" he asked, leaning against the workbench. I snorted, wiping grime off my knuckles. "Both, maybe. She's riding off with someone else now, leather jacket, tattoos, the whole bad boy starter pack." He whistled low. "Damn, that's cold. You okay?" I shrugged, cracking the beer open. "Peachy, just peachy. My phone kept buzzing though, Jess lighting up the screen with texts like she'd just remembered I existed. 'Where are you?' popped up first. Then, 'Matt, we need to talk, please.' I stared at it, the words blurring through the smudged glass, and felt this hot spike in my chest. Talk? After I'd stood there, rain dripping, watching her giggle with Dylan like I was some punchline, I thumbed a reply, fingers stiff. "Talk to Dylan," and out of gears. Said it, then blocked her number before she could hit me with some sob story. The screen went dark and I chucked the phone onto a stack of oily rags, letting out a laugh that sounded more like a cough. "Out of gears," I repeated, shaking my head. "God, I'm an idiot." Pete dragged me out of the garage that weekend, insisting I show up to his backyard barbecue. "You're not gonna mope forever, man," he said, flipping burgers on a grill that looked like it survived a war. The yard was packed. Friends from the shop, a couple neighbors, kids running around with sticky popsicle hands. I slouched in a lawn chair nursing a Coke, while the smell of charred beef and charcoal smoke filled the air. Pete wandered over, spatula in hand, and clapped me on the shoulder. "She's a fool, Matt. You're solid gold." I smirked, kicking at a clump of grass. "Solid gold with a busted transmission, maybe." He laughed, loud and rough, and a couple guys, Tommy from the auto shop and some dude named Greg, ambled over, beers dangling from their fingers. "He heard Jess pulled a fast one," Tommy said, shaking his head. "You're better off, bro." Greg nodded. "Yeah, man. Plenty of fish out there who don't screw the bait." I raised my can in a half-toast. "To fish, then, and better bait." Later that night, I ended up at the Rusty Tap. Ironic, yeah, but it's the only bar in town that doesn't water down the beer. I wasn't looking for Jess, just a corner to lick my wounds in. The place was half empty, jukebox crooning some old Johnny Cash tune, and I slid onto a stool, ordering a bud from a bartender who wasn't her. The cold bottle hit my palm and I took a long pull, staring at the chipped wood counter. Pulled a napkin from the stack, grabbed a pen from my pocket, and started scribbling pros: loyal, handy, decent cook. Cons: too damn trusting, apparently invisible. I laughed, bitter and sharp, the first real sound I'd made in days that didn't feel forced. The guy next to me, bald, plaid shirt, nursing a whiskey, glanced over and grunted, "What's so funny?" I slid the napkin his way. "Me, I guess. 3 years down the drain." He squinted at it, chuckled. "Hell, kid, least you're still handy." That laugh stuck with me, rattling something loose. I drove home the next morning, the sun barely up, and walked into my apartment like I was stepping into a crime scene. Jess's stuff was everywhere. Yoga mat, rolled up by the TV, half-dead plants wilting on the windowsill, that tacky lava lamp she swore was retro cool. I grabbed a cardboard box from the garage, started chucking it all in. Matt plants, a stack of her bar shirts that still smelled like cheap perfume. The lava lamp went last, and I tossed it in with a smirk, muttering, "Good riddance, you ugly bastard." Loaded the box in my truck, drove to her place and dumped it on her porch with a note scratched on the flap. "Figured you'd need these for the upgrade." Didn't knock, didn't wait, just peeled out, the engine growling louder than my thoughts. Back home, I flopped onto the couch, the springs creaking like they were glad to have me back. Grabbed a beer from the fridge, popped it open, and took a slow sip, staring at the empty space where her junk used to be. The motorcycle sat in the corner, still gleaming, but I didn't feel like touching it. Not yet. The apartment was quieter without her. None of her humming, no sneakers thumping off the floor. I leaned back, kicking my boots up on the coffee table, and let out a long breath. "It's quieter without her," I said to no one, the words hanging in the air. Turns out I like quiet. The beer was cold, the couch was mine, and for the first time in days, I didn't feel like I was drowning. It's been a month since I dumped Jess's junk on her porch and decided quiet wasn't so bad. Life's been chugging along, fixing cars at the shop, cracking beers with Pete, sleeping on a new couch I snagged off some guy on Craigslist for $50. No more sagging springs, no more ghosts in the cushions whispering her name every time I sat down. I'd hauled the old one to the curb, watched the trash truck crunch it into oblivion, and felt this little flicker of something. Relief, maybe, or just the satisfaction of a clean break. The garage was still my kingdom, tools scattered like loyal soldiers, but that motorcycle sat untouched in the corner, gathering dust. Thought about selling it once, but every time I grabbed the wrench, my hand stalled, like it wasn't ready to let go yet. Funny how you can build something for someone and end up stuck with it yourself. I was elbow deep in a Chevy's engine one afternoon, grease streaking up my arms, when the garage door rattled open. Wiped my hands on a rag, turned around, and there she was, Jess, standing in the sunlight like some lost puppy, eyes red and puffy. Her hair was a mess, jeans ripped at the knee, and she clutched her purse like it was a lifeline. "Matt," she said, voice cracking, "can we talk?" I froze, the rag dangling from my fingers, and felt that old knot twist in my gut, just for a second, before it burned into something hotter. "Hey, Jess," I said, keeping my tone flat. "Shop's open, but I'm not—" She stepped closer, ignoring the oil-stained floor, and her lip trembled. "I messed up, Matt. I was stupid. Dylan was nothing, just a dumb fling." "You're the real deal." I laughed, sharp, short, like a spark plug popping, and dropped the rag on the workbench. "Yeah, I am," I said, crossing my arms. "That's why I'm done being your doormat." Her eyes widened, tears spilling over, and she reached out like she might grab my sleeve. "Please, I know I hurt you, but I'm sorry. I see it now, how good you were." I stepped back, shaking my head. "You saw it when I walked out, Funny timing. Took me catching you with Mr. Bad Boy Starter Pack to figure that out." She flinched, wiping her face with her sleeve. "Matt, don't. I'm begging you." I grabbed a socket wrench, twirling it in my hand, and fixed her with a look. "Beg all you want, Jess. I'm not your fix-it guy anymore. Go cry to Dylan. He's your gear now." She stood there, mouth open, then turned and shuffled out, the door banging shut behind her. I tossed the wrench down, the clatter echoing, and muttered, "Good riddance, round two." Pete wasn't letting me off that easy, though. Early fall rolled in, crisp air chasing off the last of summer's stickiness, and he dragged me to the town fair that weekend. "No more sulking, man," he said, shoving a ticket in my hand as we pulled into the lot. The place was alive. Ferris wheel humming, kids shrieking on the tilt-a-whirl, the smell of fried dough and kettle corn thick in the air. I trailed him through the crowd, hands in my pockets, and he shoved a corn dog my way, grinning. "Eat something, you skinny bastard! You're scaring the clowns!" I took a bite, mustard smearing my chin, and smirked. Clowns don't scare easy. Takes a real pro like Jess to pull that off. He laughed, clapping me on the back, and we wandered past the game booths, where Tommy from the shop was failing miserably at ring toss. "Man, you're worse than Matt's love life," Pete yelled, and Tommy flipped him off, grinning. I was halfway through the corn dog, watching some kid puke cotton candy by the bumper cars, when someone bumped into me. Hard. I turned, ready to grumble, and saw her. Short brown hair, sharp eyes, clutching a soda, like I'd just ruined her day. "Watch it, grease monkey," she said, brushing a spill off her jacket. "You smell like gasoline and regret." I raised an eyebrow, swallowing a laugh. "And you smell like chalk and sass, fair trade." She squinted, then cracked a grin. Dry, no nonsense, but warm enough to notice. "Lena," she said, sticking out a hand. "Teacher, sorry for the crash." I shook it, my palm still sticky from the corn dog. "Matt. Mechanic, sorry for the stench." We ended up leaning against a picnic table, swapping stories over the fair's chaos. She'd been dumped last year by a wannabe poet who wrote her a breakup sonnet. 14 lines of pure crap, she said. "Left me for some barista with a nose ring," she added, rolling her eyes. I chuckled, picking at the corn dog stick. Mine went for a liquor supplier, tattoos, cologne, the works. "Caught him in bed a month back," Lena whistled, sipping her soda. "Ouch! That's a Hallmark movie gone wrong." I nodded, smirking. "Yeah, except I didn't get the sappy ending, just a post-it and a bad country song." She laughed, sharp and real, and we traded jabs about exes and life's curveballs, the kind you dodge or learn to swing at. No sparks, not yet, just a vibe, easy and light, like a tune you don't mind humming. Pete found me later, dragging me to the beer tent, but Lena, stuck in my head. Not pushy, just there, like a good bolt that fits without forcing it. Driving home that night, I cranked the windows down, letting the cool air whip through the truck. The radio kicked on, Springsteen, Born to Run, because of course, and I turned it up, the bass thumping against my ribs. The fair lights faded in the rearview, and I tossed the corndog stick out the window, watching it hit a trash can by the road with a satisfying clunk. I grinned, nodding to myself, the kind of quiet win that doesn't need a crowd. Jess thought I was a stepping stone, someone to lean on till something shinier came along. Turns out I'm the whole damn road. Bumps, curves, and all. And I'm good with that. I pulled into my lot, killed the engine, and stepped out. The night crisp and still. The apartment waited, quiet, mine. No echoes of her laugh or her mess. I glanced at the garage, the motorcycle shadow lurking under the tarp, and figured maybe I'd ride it myself one day. Solo, no baggage. For now, though, I trudged inside, kicked my boots off, and flopped on the new couch. Beer from the fridge, radio still humming in my head, and a smirk tugging at my lips. Whole damn road, I thought, and took a sip. Yeah, that'll do. Jess thought I was a stepping stone, someone to lean on till something shinier came along. Turns out I'm the whole damn road. Bumps, curves, and all. And I'm good with that. I pulled into my lot, killed the engine, and stepped out. The night crisp and still. The apartment waited, quiet, mine. No echoes of her laugh or her mess. I glanced at the garage, the motorcycle shadow lurking under the tarp, and figured maybe I'd ride it myself one day. Solo, no baggage. For now, though, I trudged inside, kicked my boots off, and flopped on the new couch. Beer from the fridge,